Hello, and welcome to the Stop, Breathe, Feel, Create podcast. You're listening to an Igniting the Flame episode where I have conversations with light bringers, change makers, and creatives. Today, I have Katie Moore of Primordial Goddess Healing on as my guest. She is a Holy Fire and Karuna Holy Fire Reiki Master Teacher and a psychic medium, as well as a color mirrors practitioner teacher and galactic channeler. I met Katie about a year ago when she started working at Etheric Connections in Gettysburg while I was finishing up the 2-year energy healing program there. In November, we were blessed to receive our ordinations as priests in the Order of Melchizedek together. Recently, I experienced one of Katie's sessions and was able to move some really deep, repressed past life energy stuff. And believe me, the past few weeks have been quite an experience as those bonds continue to unwind, and I find more space in my current timeline to trust my innate abilities as a healer and medium. I've wanted to sit down for a while and have a chat with Katie, so I'm so excited that she agreed to sit down for an interview to share more about her story and mission as a practitioner. Let's dive in.
For those of us that do this work, we're called for various reasons. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story of becoming a healer and a medium and what drew you to this work?
So my first experience was, I want to say it was about 6 or 7, and my cat got hit by a car. And then he disappeared, for a while. Apparently he had drug himself home, or somebody had brought him home, but his pelvis was twisted, and my family didn't have enough money to get his surgery. At least that's how I remember it, that or they didn't want to spend
Right.
money. I'm not sure which, but in my head, it makes me feel better thinking they didn't have enough money. And so I sat next to him, and it was all afternoon, and my family was Christian Science.
Oh, wow.
And so Mary Baker Eddy, the scientific statement of being is, I don't have it memorized, but it's a very close to kind of the thought process that, this tribe, this community has, that there's no truth in illness. And so I sat there and I read it, and I mean, it was my intention, I was like, all right, so you're not going to die on me. We're going to fix this. This is going to heal it all. And it did. He went to the vet, the pelvis was untwisted, and he was fine. And so through that, of course, healer's journey, we all have our trauma, and I shut my gifts off, and I was not in alignment at all. But I always remembered that. I always went back to that. And then I don't know, one day I was like, all right, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I transformed my life, my energy, right? My son's energy. And I want to give people the tools and the knowledge that they have the control. They are the gods within, right? We recreate God, or we express God or source, whatever your beliefs, through what we do every day and every moment. And so that's what drives me, is I want everybody to see their magnificence. I want everybody to know that, showing up, doing the work, like, you can do anything. And people forget that, like, they just lose that magic. But so that's what drives me.
Yeah, that's so important, because we do forget that we each have a spark of the divine within us, and it becomes a heavy weight to carry.
It does. And when you feel like you have no support, and that you are doing this human thing all on your own, and you are a victim of your circumstances, that's an issue. Even the bad things that have happened to us. And, I could tell you my life story and some moments that would just make you cringe, right? Like we all have them. They happen to get us where we are. They happen to us so our soul can grow. And that's like something else that people forget and they really need to realize is it's not, the world and God are not against you.
In this culture, and especially with so many people suffering from neurodivergence and stuff like that, we're very dopamine and pleasure seeking. So I feel like that a lot of times we focus only on enjoying or, having pleasurable experiences in our body, and we miss out a lot on finding the lessons that are within some of the heartbreak and some of the turmoil that we do have to live through.
Because we're not taught the proper way. We're taught this is good, this is bad. You avoid bad, anything bad, is toxic to you. And what we're not taught is to sit there and look at it from a different perspective. When you're having a hard time, yesterday was rough for me. I don't even know what in the world came up, but it was just like one thing after another.
Yep.
And I'm processing through each thing as it's coming up. And, what is my body telling me? What am I not in alignment with? All right, all this stuff's coming up for me to release. So, and instead people sit in it. I'll edit my language now. So you can't sit in your stuff, right? That's negative and just sit there. And so people avoid it, and then they avoid it because they don't know how to shift it. They don't know how to release it. They don't know how to get the patterns out. And then the quick is drugs or, anything that is going to raise those happy chemicals, right? But if you sit with it and you look at it and you see it for what it is, you can shift out of that very quickly. And the next time it happens, right? Then you're like, oh, I know what this is. All right, what can I do to shift this? Right. So so what brought my stuff up is this year for me is a personal year 3, which is the Color Mirrors bottle number 3. And the other day I had a reading, and my mentor, my friend, holds up this bottle, and I just started bawling. And I'm like, really? Like, I'm not really sure how many times I can keep going through the color mirrors crying things. But then I'm like, all right, send me the bottle. So as soon as the bottle is shipped, right, the energy works. And so the bottle came yesterday, and I picked it up in the morning. And I know that's what started all of it. So anything that was blocking, like fully seeing my self-worth, was like, yep, here we are. Oh, wait, here's more.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the color mirrors, and we'll start unpacking all the things that you do, but you mentioned that.
So color mirrors is phenomenal. Right now, a healer in DC that works more on a human level than I do. I talk about dragons and bringing all this in. She works more on a tangible level. We're going to do a retreat I'm really excited about. So planning Berkeley Springs because of the water energy and the color mirrors. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Please keep me in the loop.
Yes. Saturday, it's going to be on a Saturday and Sunday, but I'm really excited. So let's pick a bottle that. These are bath bottles. Okay. So I know if somebody's just listening, they're not going to see that. So the bath bottles work at the language of the DNA. And so the top part is the consciousness and the bottom is subconscious. It uses essential oils, flower essences, the psychology of color. But then, you get deeper into it, and each ascended master is connected to a color ray. And, every type of emotion and vibration is associated with a color ray. And so the bath bottles, you either put them on your feet or you bathe in like a third of it, and your body, your skin will absorb it. And then it goes about as deep energetically as it can to shift whatever needs shift. It brings up a lot of stuff. The bottle that I'm working with is coral over coral. And so that is all about radical self-acceptance, self-love, self-worth, and all of that, because it's like pink. You got the pink. It's mostly pink with a little bit of yellow. So you got that wisdom and joy, but yellow helps to shift out fear.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so the bottles are phenomenal. I started about 3.5 years ago, and then I became a teacher at the end of last year. And then you have the spritzers, and the spritzers work from the electromagnetic field in. And so that's more of your quick fix, right? So it's something tangible that you can hold, and you get the results that you would if you were going after something toxic to you. That's why I really like those. But they're created in South Africa by a woman named Melissa. And so Melissa can tap into every one of her teachers if they create a bottle. And so she can channel that energy. And so she channels the energy of the beings and the elements, the ascended masters, all of that, and puts all this energy in these bottles. And the whole color mirrors healing system is overseen by Melchizedek.
Okay. Can you, in your words, tell us a little bit about Melchizedek? I was doing a lot more research since we had our ordination and everything, but I would like to hear your connection to the Order of Melchizedek and everything.
So I connected with this collective, right, that I didn't know what it was, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And because I channel. So when I go into it and I open myself up, it just pours out things that, it's not me. So I'm trying to figure this out. And the judgment kept coming up. And then I started seeing the color. And then I saw this like magnificent being. And then I got connected more closely with Yeshua and, the order of Melchizedek, I'll say. But so this is an energy. I work with him. I'll say him. It's like talking about source, right? But I'll say him just so people can follow along here. I channel light codes from him. And so I draw them, I activate them in people and things like that. And so I feel like it's more like a co-collaboration with his energy, things that need to be birthed, through me to help people and just get it out in the world. Very loving, really helps to get rid of the energy of illusions.
Oh, wow. I hadn't experienced that part. Tell me a little bit more about the illusions part.
So when I work with Melchizedek, right? So when we think of judgments are illusions. Judgments are based on things that we were taught and the culturally created self, where, our parents, our religion, our ancestors, blah, blah, blah. And it's all this stuff that is not us. And therefore we create these judgments, or if we were told how worthless or, we needed to lose weight or blah, 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 then we start judging ourselves pretty harshly, right? When we get rid of judgments, what happens is it opens up and you can start seeing all the illusions. And at first it's a lot of, I don't know another word for mindfuckery. You're going to have to bleep that out.
No worries.
All right. I'll just say mindfuckery. So like when you start seeing all of the illusions, right, which are the judgments. If I think I'm better than somebody else, that's an illusion. If I think less than you because of your religion or your color or whatever, right? Because you were having a bad day and, passed me on the road and we had an altercation or whatever, like that's an illusion. And so when we start breaking down and getting rid of the judgments, Then you start letting go of all the illusions. You get rid of the fear. You get rid of the collective cords that we have, which again is illusion. So January is supposed to be the hardest month financially for everybody in the world, apparently, right? Well, that's an illusion, because I'm sure there are people thriving right now. It's just something that we were taught, and then it's a judgment. And then since we have this judgment that we're not going to do well in January, we're not going to do well in January. And so the energy of Melchizedek helps to break all of that apart. And so you're just left with that oneness and that connection, more so to yourself and who you really are as a divine being.
I love that. I've definitely been seeing those energies popping up in my life. You know, it started probably in October or something. I started getting the moon card a lot when I was pulling cards. But there's been a lot of outdated belief systems, like things that I knew I needed to release, but they kept holding on. It was like I couldn't remove that cord or whatever. And it was like after the ordination, I've definitely been, and then our session together, there's been a huge shift of like moving past those and also being able to see those illusions for what they are.
Yeah, and so that energy is beautiful. I'll go ahead, I'll spray some Melchizedek. When you start tapping into the illusions and letting them go and seeing things for how they really are, your whole world shifts. You start looking at everything that happened to you as a blessing. You know,
Right.
I was abused really bad growing up, physically. And I'm grateful for it. I see it for what it is. I am one of the most resilient human beings ever, because of it. Like, you know, there's nothing that has happened that I can sit there and say, that's bad, that's negative, I regret that. I don't. You know, and it's a beautiful thing when you get to that point, and then you can be grateful for absolutely everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that is how I associate Melchizedek, and how he comes in, and that energy and the order of Melchizedek comes in to help us shift our lives.
That's amazing. And as far as your understanding of who or what the person was, from what I've found, Melchizedek was even sometimes attributed to being Jesus in some of the research and stuff like that. In your research, have you found that he's more of an ascended master, or more of this Christ-like figure that maybe crossed? It's a hard question.
Well, actually, this is easy for me. I see him as a galactic energy, a universal energy that, and as you tap into the vastness of those universal galactic beings, right? They have multiple aspects. So they can come down and put their energy and their light, or do incarnations into 20 different people at the same time, or more if they choose to. So I believe that his energy was in Yeshua. I believe his energy is associated with Merlin. I believe his energy is associated with Saint Germain. I think there's a lot of different, I'll say pieces, but aspects, you know, of himself that he has incarnated into, or with other beings in a body, other, you know, energies within one. I think Yeshua is Yeshua, but I also think he embodied Melchizedek. You know, so I do feel he's a large energy, and I do feel he's had many incarnations, and I believe that he works through, you know, all of the light workers to help shift what's going on in the world, so we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah, I love that definition of sort of like trying to create a compartment or, a container for something that's so big to understand. That definitely brings it into more of a instead of putting it in certain labels or whatever, it gives it a broader sense that we don't have to totally have a name for something or, you know, be able to fully explain it because it is out of this world.
Well, it's the same concept, I feel, as we're all divine beings. We all have that source, God, goddess, priest, priestess energy within. So if each one of us has that, um, and you can accept that, it's easier to think that these massive beings can have multiple aspects, to come in whenever, because they're divine beings as well, and we're just an aspect of them.
Right. Yeah. How does that tie into your other work? Because you do a lot of like past life sessions and other things. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I teach Holy Fire Reiki and Karuna Holy Fire Reiki. I teach color mirrors. I do a lot of past life work. Um, I do just channeled sessions where I go into somebody's energy and whatever needs done, we do. When I say we, it's because I channel the higher energy. It's not me. I don't do it. Just the, vessel conduit, whatever you want to say. It all ties in because that Melchizedek energy is always flowing. I'm always connected to that. And so helping people get rid of the judgment, which a lot of the judgment comes from past lives. A lot of the old programming and things like that. It's on a cellular level, it's energetic, it's everything. And so if you can go into the past life, integrate whatever piece, was traumatized or you left behind. It's always unintentionally when we have that fraction or fracture. But if you can look past the judgment and accept this is what happened, we're going to let this go, we're going to heal this, we're going to bring that piece back. It's through Melchizedek that I can so easily remove soul contracts and soul agreements and old programming. So every piece of what I do does fit really nicely together. It's like a puzzle.
That's really cool. I I have studied under the Yasui Reiki. Can you tell me a little bit about the difference between Holy Fire and the what was the other Holy Fire version? It's more symbols and stuff, right? The Karuna.
Yeah. So I did Yusui and Sakim, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, in 2005. Obviously, I have not used that. And I did that and it didn't resonate with me because I'm like, the universe is vast and why is this so structured?
Gotcha.
It felt very masculine to me. And so, it was never my thing to say, I want to teach this. And then I came across Holy Fire and it was fluid and it is gentle and kick you in the ass at the same time. It is the it's the Reiki of the divine feminine. It feels like an upgraded level from Usui. So, you go back, and this is my issue with Usui, and this is something I don't talk a lot about because I know it triggers people. But my issue with Usui is you go all the way back, and it started with a man. Really? Did it start with a man? Uh-huh. I'm sure it did. It just aggravates me because you just go back and there's a guy, and then everybody knows the story of the guy that climbed the mountain and fasted, and then you get all the Reiki energy, and then he's so excited and he's running back down, and he stubs his toe, and he gives Reiki to his toe, and then he's wonderful, and I'm sure it actually happened like that. And it just aggravates me to no end because you can tell. I mean, it's kind of like the Bible structure to me.
Right.
It's just so crap. Like, and I know people love it. And, I'm always, whatever works for me isn't going to work for you. But that's why I was drawn to holy fire, and I experienced it, and I'm like, wow, like, what is this? Like, this is fabulous. um, so you can call in the holy fire flame, ask it to do what you need it to do, and that's it. Like, it flows with every other healing modality. It flows with channeling. A lot of times when I'm channeling, the holy fire is flowing out. It just naturally happens. But yeah, I view the old Usui as the divine masculine, and the holy fire Reiki is the divine feminine.
Very interesting. I want to look more into it now because I tend to be more of an intuitive healer, and I honestly, a lot of trauma for me was based around like hands-on healing and prayer healing and stuff like that because I grew up sort of Pentecostal wholeness, and it wasn't something where you invited the person to do it, they just did it. And so it's, knowing my innate, whether it was from past lives, which we know that now for sure, the healing abilities from past lives, but also just me being able to read the field, the energy field, and what the person's going through. I've found that there are, I love the strategic part of the Reiki, but I include so much more, like angelic light weaving and a lot of sound and stuff like that. So I am definitely really interested in finding out more of the holy fire because it does seem like that I need to find something to balance out a little bit of that like masculine, very organized energy.
So going off of what you just said, that was my issue with Usui, is I've always channeled. The more I do it, the more it comes in, and then I have no idea what I've said or anything, right? Like, it just comes. But when I'm doing Usui Reiki, I'm thinking about what I'm supposed to do next, and paying attention to the person's breathing, and my energy wants to completely just go away, right? And have whatever beings and energies need to come in, and communicate with your higher self and your guides. And then I start seeing, what past lives need to be healed, and what part of your energy is off, and I can fully see it in my head. I can't think of the next hand positions and what I'm going to be doing. It just it I yeah, I tap out of my humanness, and to do Usui Reiki, I find that I have to be more in my body, and my strongest gift is being able to go into your energy and be in your energy like it's my own, and then I don't feel my own at all. And focusing on all of the extra stuff just isn't. I want to be able to call in the energy, or ask, whatever I need it to do, what I would like it to do. And then holy fire does its own thing, so I can ask it to do something, and it's going to do something entirely different, because just like, a divine being, we don't know better than the Reiki energy that's coming into us, no matter what Reiki modality. So you have Usui, the next step is holy fire, and it doesn't stop. So staying with the holy fire before we go into Karuna, it is upgraded twice since I started using it. And you can feel it when the energy changes. Like, I had to reach out to my teacher the first time, and I'm like, what is this? I'm calling in holy fire, and it's like knocking me out. And it, because it had upgraded from holy love to world peace. During COVID, it up leveled because as a collective, we needed it to. And it had just up leveled to, I want to say divine love or holy love. I'm not sure what they were calling it. When I took it, it had just it was in the process of upgrading. So I like that you can feel it when it up levels, right? And so then I'm like, I pushed myself to the extremes. Like learning is my thing. And I'm like, so what is next?
Right.
And it was Karuna. So Karuna Holy Fire, you have the Holy Fire, right? Symbol. Karuna is taken by any Reiki master. So, it could be Usui or it could be Holy Fire Reiki, as long as you're a Reiki master. And it is 9 symbols. And so Karuna means compassion. So it's really Reiki of compassion, which kind of cracks me up because if you're doing Reiki, it's always coming from compassion, but whatever, that's what Karuna means. So you have like, it's stepping like stones pretty much. So you have a symbol specific for the physical body. So if you're having physical issues, you use the one symbol. You don't have to go through all the extra steps or anything. You just tap into that one symbol. And then you have one for the subconscious. And then you have the next one is for the heart, any heart healing, physical or emotional. And then you have one that works on the human chakras, the lower chakras. So it heals and balances and opens those so you can channel more energy. And then the next one is to embody your higher self, where you can feel your heart and up completely expand. And it's a really trippy feeling as it comes in. And then the next one is to call back all your personal power from any universe, dimension, reality. It's pretty powerful. And then you get into my favorite. So you have Shanti, which is great for everybody. So Shanti is the one that helps you reestablish your trust in the universe. So when you feel like source, God, the gods and goddesses, whatever we're going to call them, when we feel like they're not there and we're not supported, we lose faith. We totally feel like we're ass on our own and we can't, we're by ourselves and it's lonely. It's isolating. And so this symbol reestablishes your trust and faith in the universe. And it is very relaxing. And it's also very empowering. And then you have the next one that helps ground all of the energy that you brought in. So as you're opening up, right? So you're embodying your higher self. Well, yes, I really would like to keep that in this reality. Thank you. And so that symbol helps to do that. You can use them together. You can use them individually. And then you have the holy fire flame.
That sounds amazing. Okay, check.
Yeah.
I definitely do. Get on that.
Well, the beautiful part of Karuna is that the last day, toning and chanting is activated. So again, me being me, in the book, it says, don't do a symbol for over 15 minutes. And I'm like, well, what happens if you do it for over 15 minutes? You go so out of your body. It took me days to come back. It was beautiful though, but yeah, you get activated. Feels more like an initiation into a higher energy.
No doubt.
And so you start chanting and toning, and even like in your head, it sounds different. You can hear so much more that's not you. Just phenomenal. So
I don't need to add any more voices.
But it's cool to do into a candle.
Yeah.
Like in the water, like into water or into a candle that you're carving for magical woo-woo purposes, right? Like you can chant or tone into that, and it's just phenomenal. Yeah.
That sounds great.
some of what you were talking about with the Reiki, and you were tapping into a little bit about channeling and stuff like that. I have, not only do I have clairaudience pretty much going on all the time, regardless of how many shields or whatever I put up, but the first time I actually had like a full on other voice come through and stuff like that, I wasn't fully prepared. And I'm just curious, like when you first started experiencing channeling, and if you have any like aftercare perhaps that might help people that are first starting to experience it.
So I started channeling deceased people. I'm laughing because I just remember fully when I had my freak out moment with channeling. So the deceased people, I could set my boundaries and be like, all right, like I'm not open. You've got to stop talking, right? So my my first like really major I can't function channeling was with unicorns. And so wherever I looked, I could see the unicorn that was talking to me. And so anytime I was having a conversation with somebody, I could see the unicorn.
I love that.
Made it really difficult to pay attention to anything. Yeah. Um, so first I would recommend anybody that's channeling is every day you need to set the integrity, because you don't want anything negative, and you don't want deceased people coming in that say they're going to help you or do help you for a moment and then just don't want to leave because they love your energy. There's anybody that channels is a light. The light attracts the dark and other light. Now, so dark doesn't necessarily mean bad. We define anything bad with out of judgment. And that's how we define what's bad. So what isn't in alignment with me doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means it's not part of my path. Right.
Right.
So let's let go of good or bad. So set the integrity. So you're only channeling beings that are in alignment with you. I just had to teach my son to do this a couple years ago because he kept waking me up in the middle of the night because there were alien beings that he could see crawling on his walls. So how I taught him, he's 16 now. I think this happened when he was about 13. I told him to very forcefully, however he wanted to scream at them to get out of his room. They were not welcome in his space. And then I'm like, you need to set the integrity of, we started at 6 because he was comfortable. When we got up, he started channeling angelic beings in school. So again, I had to teach him how to kind of set that, well, you're not open. You're not open during school hours, dude. Like I can't get a call from the school that you're talking to things that aren't there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So first, set the integrity. You have to know who's in your energy. So I can channel through feeling. If I feel the energy, I know who's there, to the point where I can tell you what they're wearing through feeling. It's really weird. I can hear. The way that I hear is that I see words in my head. Sometimes the words are spelled backwards, and that's fun.
I get that occasionally too.
Right. And you sit there and you're like, all right, I need my human self to come back in for a minute. Like, let's unscramble these letters or see what we can do with them. Yeah, it's like a game. You have to be forceful in your boundaries. So I'm not a big believer in put up a bubble of light and, nothing will come through the light. It has not worked for me. So I say, and sorry if this offends people, but I say anything that's not welcome, like, get the fuck out of my energy. I am very, like, you've got to go. I also am big on, colors you wear are going to attract certain things because it's a vibration. Oils and scents and things like that you have on, they're going to attract, beings. Do your research before you put a bunch of stuff all over you. Right? Like, that just makes sense to me, because we're energy healers. We're working with these frequencies, but we're going to put anything on. Like, no.
Yeah.
If I'm in a low vibe, I'll put on sweetgrass. It makes me happy, and I know the properties of it. Color mirrors, I used 9 bottles this morning. They're all over there. But I'm very intentional. You have to be intentional. And you have to set your boundaries. I keep saying that, but people don't do it. Like, they get all excited because they're channeling, and then it gets out of control.
Oh yeah, very easily.
So some people, what works is, you got to do this every day, multiple times a day, because you're training your energy is what you're doing. But seeing yourself pulling on, like, one of those lights that's in the basement, you pull the string, the light comes on, and that's how you're telling the universe that you're open. Or using a light switch. For me, it's scents. Before I sat down on here, I sprayed some alignment spray. I've already done my flower essences. And as soon as I light certain incenses and I sit down, my energy relax. I kind of tap out. I can feel the crown open, but it's taken years to train my energy. Where people lack is, and this isn't a judgment, this is because people need to show up more. Where people lack is consistency. They try to do one thing for a month, and it doesn't work, and so they stop.
I feel like it's almost like a muscle or something that we have to train, and it can either be weak or it can almost be overpowered, maybe in the wrong way sometimes. And it's definitely something that you have to actively work at.
It is. And so people look at people like us, and I get this all the time. I want your gifts. Well, you have,
do you though?
Right? Like, do you really? But everybody has their own gifts. Tap into them. That's why you have them. And what I tell people, I'm an open door pretty much. So anybody that has any questions can message me, which is why sometimes it seems like I disappear, because I'm answering people like constantly in my free time. But you have to know what works for you. Reading something in a book, I'll go back to that bubble of light. In most of the metaphysical books you read, it's going to tell you to put that bubble of light up. The bubble of light does not work for me. Doesn't matter what I put into it, it does not work. Grounding the normal way doesn't work for me. So when I shut my eyes, I've learned to push my roots down to the middle of the earth, into a pool of water. I can ground in water. That the earth energy, by like just earth and dirt, no, not even a little bit.
It definitely, I've found that you have to find what works for you rather than just, there's no cut and dry cookie cutter way of doing any of these practices, especially grounding or shielding or whatever.
Yeah, there's not. And talk to people. If you reach out to a spiritual teacher, healer, most likely, if they're in a high integrity, they will help you, or they will point you in the direction of somebody that can help you or talk to you, or they'll send you videos, or they'll say, hey, check out this person. We're supposed to help one another. That is also one of the things that I do, is I help people find what works for them. because this is when I was a little more judgy. It used to really make me angry that, people would be like, well, I talked to this person, or I watched this and this is how they do it and it doesn't work for me. Or I keep seeing this grounding technique and my crown chakra won't close. Well, no, we need to figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm. And I think so many people are afraid of trying for themselves because, they put their mentors up on a pedestal or something like that. And we honestly have the innate ability within each of us to know what works better for each, individually, but we have to get past that fear. And how would you recommend getting past that fear for people?
Find a community where the people are vulnerable.
Yeah.
There are the separation in the spiritual community are the people that don't share any of their personal life or their struggles, and everything's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the spiritual community. Like I just went through a very public breakup with not only my wife, but she was my business partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still showed up and taught classes, and half the time I cried during the classes. But I want people to know and understand that we are human.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you've been sharing a lot of your story lately,
Mm-hmm.
and how you're finding more of you. And that's what I want to see in the spiritual community. All of my teachers and mentors that I've ever worked with, like, I know where they've come from. I know their struggles. I see it. They share it, and we need to be more approachable, and we need to be more real, and people need to, we have money issues. Sometimes we worry about if we're going to pay our bills next month. We have breakups, we lose people, and the only way people are going to know that is if, as a community, we start sharing more.
Mm-hmm.
So find those teachers, those mentors, those friends, those people that show you what the spiritual path is actually like for them.
Right.
And see how they overcome it. They'll share their techniques. Because what I like reading what other people do to help heal themselves. I like to see how people show up for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I find that motivating, because then it makes me want to show up for myself more sometimes when I start doubting.
100%. And it's so, I think one of the biggest things that held me back between the out there belief of like you keep your skeletons in your closet, and so many of my things that I'm dealing with in this physical meat frame have been things that come with stigmas. And I feel like a lot of times healers are put in that position to be able to maybe up level quicker so that they can be way showers. And they forget that that's part of the journey because they're trying to find this enlightenment and stuff, but they forget that they can still share it in right speech. Like, yes, you need to stay out of the negative, like, and because that will definitely bring you down, but there's a way to actually be vulnerable and do it in a proper manner that will help people grow, or at least I'm experiencing that.
So let's go back to the negative. It's
Please
funny.
do.
I just had this conversation. It's 2 days in a row because it's coming up with a lot. So people share negative things, right? Like, we know this. Like, you have the not or the slightly spiritual people or the wanting to be spiritual, but yet all they talk about is the negative crap. So if you want to share the negative things that happen to you, which is fine, right? Like, that's how other people learn from you. But you got to see the positive in it too. You got to see the lessons. You got to not feel like the universe is attacking you, like, because it's not. And when you can start to look at the lessons in every negative, right, not so pleasant situation, you can see the lessons. That's where you're going to find the most growth. So, you know, share negative things. But, you know, at the end of that, put what positivity you're getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a balance that most people don't seem to get. You know, I'll say out of my marriage, I gained a new perspective and 2 dogs and a bonus child that lives with me. So, you know, I'll call that a win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can take anything negative and find something positive in it.
Right. And I think that's one of the biggest things is, you know, we get so caught up in that whirlpool of being pulled down that we forget to press pause for a second, feel into our bodies, and be like, okay, what am I actually supposed to be experiencing right now? What is the lesson in all of this? Instead of just like, woe is me all the time.
Yes. Yeah, bad things happen. Yes, they do every day. But are you going to let it destroy you?
Right.
Are you going to actually look from a higher perspective and see why it's happening to you? You know, what do you need to get out of it?
Mm-hmm. And I think that that was one of, especially something I've struggled with the past, like, I'd say last 4 years with, you know, going through COVID. I was trying to stay in such high vibrations for my community and stuff, but it was like I was dealing with it. It's hard to say this, but it was almost like postpartum depression from getting out of grad school. I lived my whole entire life for this, receiving my MFA, and then we're in the middle of a pandemic. My exhibition's in our garage, and there was like no true culmination. And I was just sort of like thrown out with the bathwater. And it was like, okay, how do I rebuild my life and reframe when it's all completely, you know, like there was this huge tower moment, both collectively and in my personal life. So it was like, where do you rebuild from that? And I was so caught up in I can't show the cracks in my foundation that I think it really stunted my growth and being able to open up because I was so afraid of being judged.
But there's a level of like embarrassment that comes. I think every healer seems to go through this stage. I'll go back to the divorce that I'm in the middle of because that was my first thought was I'm supposed to be this, you know, person of a high vibe and my world is falling apart at the moment. You know, um and then you have a choice. You sit there and you're like, all right, so do I hide while I go through this or do I just keep moving forward? And that's where it
Mm-hmm.
gets hard because it's especially anybody between their 30s and I want to say 50s. You know, it's you don't show that to the world.
Yeah.
You only show your best self. Like nobody needs to see anything else. Um, but that just hurts our own growth and everybody else's. So it's difficult. Like I get it. Many years I didn't share, you know, my mom killed herself when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that took me a lot of, yeah, she's with me now. She's over here.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel her squeezing my arm. That took a lot for me to say to people, right? Because like what happens in the home stays in the home and blah blah
Right.
blah. You know, but you're overcoming that now. So it was just a huge growth
Mm-hmm.
thing for you, right? To let go
Yeah.
of all of that. But yeah, we all go through that. You know, we don't share every little tiny thing, right? But any experience we have that can help anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that everybody should. And yes, there's going to be a level of embarrassment. There's going to be a level of fear. There's going to be a level of, I lost people from when they found out that her and I had split up,
Oh, I can imagine.
But it's okay because they're not my people.
Mm-hmm. There has to
So
be an energetic match.
there does. And so as you're healing, right, your vibe and everything else is going to go up and everything's going to switch. So if, you're ashamed or you're embarrassed to share something, then you need to look at your self-worth, right? And go inside and start doing more inner healing. Because we
Mm-hmm.
all do that.
Yeah, for sure. And something that I love is you're holding space for your teenager as well, going through, still keeping the third eye and the crown chakra open so that they're able to stay on both sides. So many get like clouded because within school, especially, you have to hide so much of your innate abilities to feel outside of yourself. And talking about that hiding aspect of it and everything reminded me of the social media stuff that we have to deal with so much. And I can only imagine what it would be like to be a teenager right now, because it's like I'm feeling the comparison culture aspect of it and the keeping up with the Joneses and everything like that. So I can only imagine what a kid or, a teenager is actually experiencing with seeing, all of these other people on their feed. And that's only, we're going back to the illusions. It's the illusion of all of these things that are happening. And I think we need to start taking that curtain down.
We need to give the kids the tools to help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So my son has Asperger's. And so I had to teach him that was a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. And then when he started channeling, he started to shut down his gifts because he didn't want to do it. So then we tackled that. And then this morning, he had finals. He has finals today for his AP class. And so he comes down and he uses Metatron spritzer, color mirror spritzer, the Yellow Angel color mirror spritzer, the Peridot color mirror spritzer, and what other one did he use? Oh, gold dragon. He has his own Metatron and Yellow Angel upstairs because that helps with overthinking and it helps
Mm-hmm.
with studying and focus. But he knew exactly what to use to help him get through his day. And I just watch him and I smile and I just have that proud mom moment. Like, you are a fabulous human being, dude.
I love that. That's so great.
If they're not taught what tools they can use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what's available and then they don't experience it. Like, you have to allow them to experience it.
Yeah.
He'll ask me to blast him with holy fire. And so we're talking about my kid here. So you had asked me the difference between like Usui and holy fire. And the one thing I will say is that he will not allow me to use any symbols or any Usui, anything on him. The only thing I'm allowed to do is the holy fire flame because
Oh,
it's the
wow.
only thing that his energy can tolerate.
Interesting.
And if he'll know, because I've experimented with this. If you're sending something else, like he'll yell, "Stop it!" All right, because it just doesn't feel good to his energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so people need to stop shielding their children so much.
Yeah. In the case of someone that themselves hasn't become fully awakened, or at least they're still navigating the side of being open and spiritual and stuff like that, how would you recommend holding space for children or even friends that are coming in that are, 2 or 3 steps behind you?
Well, first, you got to get rid of the judgment that you're better.
Mm-hmm. Or
because
not good enough, either way, right?
because I'm friends with non-spiritual people, and not a whole lot, don't get me wrong, but there's a few that I love dearly. And, for holding space, it's got to be okay for everybody to be where they're at. And just keeping the door open.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you got to remember you're going to attract people that are a reflection of you. So,
Yeah.
for me, 99% of the time, I do not attract anybody in my life that is not spiritually open. Because that's all I talk about. Like, even in my personal life, that's like, every ounce of, I don't know, every part of my life, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But just be understanding and have that acceptance that, no, not everybody is going to be where you're at. And even people you think are where you're at are not where you're at, because they're not you. Right. And so just love people for who they are.
Mm-hmm. I love
You
that.
know, that's the best way to hold space, I think.
Mm-hmm. When we experience like triggered moments, how would you say is the best way to move through those quickly so we can still, or at least in the moment of trigger, still hold compassion for the other person in the situation so you can start moving through it quicker?
This was difficult for me because I react. I'm a reactor, like 100%. Training myself to stop or to get out of the room or off of the call or whatever, to sit there and be like, all right, I'm triggered. Like, what is coming up? What do I need to heal?
Mm-hmm.
Training yourself and your energy to be able to take even a 30-second pause to say what lesson or, what do I need to heal? What do I need to heal? Like, have that be, your mantra. What do I need to heal every time you're triggered? And get into the habit of saying, I feel triggered. Because anybody that pisses you off in any way, or you start having those feelings of inadequacy or whatever, right? That's just stuff in you that you need to let go of and heal.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like so many people just shut that down. That's kind of where the whole cancel culture stuff has started, is like, you can't have a various opinion from me. We all have to be, and it's like, yes, we need to be in unity, but having other opinions is what makes us all unique and actually pushes the needle forward in this whole enlightenment sort of like space.
Yes. So I agree 1,000%. My opinions and views and my experiences are nobody else's but my own. So the dragon and unicorn thing's interesting because, I connect with the unicorns and dragons on just a, like, I don't know. I just like I talk about it. I can feel my heart. It makes me happy. Like, I feel them all the
Yeah, I
time.
could just see your aura sort of like bloom when you talked about it.
I love them. They have helped me so much. Now, are there a lot of people, even spiritual people, that believe that they don't exist? Absolutely. Because in this lifetime, my view is, in this lifetime, you're not supposed to connect with them, and that's fine. Right?
Yeah.
So just knowing that everybody, and so it's a little different when you're asking me these questions, because how my thought process is really different. So normally, I'm like, well, wow, I wonder what their soul signed up for this journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sitting with them when they were, agreeing with what their lessons were and what they signed up for and the traumas that they signed up for. And So we are not with anybody else, at their time of incarnation. And so who are we to judge what experiences they have?
Yeah.
That is actually not our business.
Right. And within that, do you believe in soul contracts? Like, we're here to live through certain experiences, both good and bad.
Yes. So I personally believe that we sometimes sign up to kill people, and then the next life we're going to save people. So our soul knows the contrast. If we only knew positive, happy things, it would not feel so happy, right? We wouldn't feel that love. That contrast is really important for our soul growth. And so, as humans, we judge people that say kill people, right? Like, well, why do we judge them? Well, we judge them because it's something that we would not do. It doesn't, we don't have any right to judge anybody else. The only thing that, we have the right to do is to decide what is in alignment with our energy and what resonates with us.
And I feel like on top of judgment, there's also expectations too, because we'll project that onto other people. And when they don't show up the way that we're hoping or, thinking that they should, it also leads into that too.
It does. Expectations is something that I struggle with still. That's what I'm currently working on. It's so easy to be let down. And again, it goes back to because you wouldn't do it.
Right.
So if we raise our I was going to say standards, if we raise our boundaries in every part of our life, that we're not going to attract and allow anybody that has a lower integrity than we do, then we eliminate a lot of that. So the expectations comes from disappointments and negative things, comes from the past lives. The soul contracts and soul agreements, those are things that in our past lives, when we had any type of trauma and then we died and we have guilt or we have anything, or we don't want to experience anything again, or we don't think we deserve anything, we make up these ridiculous things that we carry. And so that also really plays into the expectations.
100%.
And so when you can let go of those soul contracts, soul agreements, or those patterns that you're carrying, it's easier to let go of the judgments and the expectations. See, it all kind of comes full circle and all works together.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for being on here. I have loved our conversation, and I can't wait to keep the ball rolling, because there's so much I know that I can learn from being in your space. So, how can we find you if we want to work with you or learn more about that workshop that you were talking about?
So I am on TikTok, Primordial Goddess Katie. I am on Instagram, which I'm actually not really doing the Instagram thing very well, but I'm on Instagram. It's Primordial Goddess Healing. And that's what on Facebook, my business page is Primordial Goddess Healing. I am Katie Moore. You can, find me just on Facebook under that. And then I have 3 groups. I do Primordial Witches. And then I do Soulful Synergy Alignment and Flow, which is for spiritually based business, looking at it from an energetic perspective. Yeah, so that's one of my new babies. And then I have a color mirrors group with my color mirrors teacher, Deborah, that we do together. So everybody can learn about color mirrors, share their experiences, get to know about the new bottles and things like that. So you can find me there. And my website is primordialgoddesshealing.biz.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I just learned about some new groups that I didn't know about. So I'm definitely going to be stalking you on those. So
Send you the invites if you want to join those too.
awesome. Thank you. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Katie. And I can't wait to just hang out with you some more in the future.
Oh, I know. I love you. You're awesome. I'm really excited. You're going to be at the expo too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely come and check out Katie's offerings. She'll have the color bottles there and some past life stuff and everything. And I had a major shift after our time together for sure.
I was glad we connected. That was the first time we actually really connected on a soul level, and it meant a lot. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful.
I usually choose like one service or something that I participate in, and I'd sat the whole entire day Saturday like trying to feel the vibe. I was like, you were right diagonal to me, and I was like, okay, it's happening.
I'm glad you did. And then you got to experience the sprays too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That
Yeah.
was very, very interesting. Like I can almost feel them when I think of our session and stuff. And I'm like, I need to bring that more into my work because I do a lot of essential oils and stuff like that. And aromatherapy helps trigger certain things with me. So I want to find out more about your stuff too.
Well, in the color mirrors, you'll find that people fall out of your life very quickly and you attract all new people
I bet.
because lower integrity people cannot stand to be in the energy of the bottles. It's like a godsend right there. Uh-huh.
It's like a bad energy expulsion.
It is 100%.
Well, thank you so much for being on. I'll let you go and enjoy your day and just so blessed to have you on here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I love you very much, my friend.
Love you too. Have a good
All right.
day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, honey.
You've been listening to a Stop, Breathe, Feel, Create podcast. Check out the show notes for details on how to learn more about Katie Moore's work, as well as links to find out what's happening in my world, from events that I'll be at to how you can work one-on-one with me to start living authentically and with abundance this year, while deepening your connection to self and community through creativity, mindfulness, and nature. That's all for now. Tune in next time and don't forget to check out Lauren G. Koch, Keeper of the Old Ways, across social media as well as YouTube and Patreon, where you'll be able to access even more inspiring and educational content. And don't forget, when you become a supporter, you also fuel the ongoing creation of content just like this. Many blessings, and don't forget to stop, breathe, feel, create.